today I'm going to show you how to turn this into this. Pegboard is a super cheap way to help organize all of your tools and make them easily accessible from your workbench. I'm just using scrap 2x4s and an old piece of pegboard, but there are lots of different ways to complete this type of project. I started out by designing a simple frame that the board will be attached to. The piece of pegboard I'm using has some tear damage, so I drew out where I wanted to cut it so I could use as much as possible. A table saw would be ideal for this situation, but if you watched my last video, you know that I am limited in the tools I have. One easy alternative to using a table saw is to use another piece of wood as a guide with a skill saw, and this method works fine for me. Once the pegboard was cut, I measured its length and width so I could match these dimensions with the 2x4 frame. For this design, I needed to cut 4 pieces that would line up with the outside of the pegboard, and then 1 piece for extra support going down the middle. A miter saw would make these cuts much easier, but again, the skill saw works too. Next, I laid out all the cut pieces just to make sure that they fit how I wanted them to. Then I pre-drilled and screwed everything into place. If you have 2 electric drills, then you can designate one to pre-drill holes and the other to drive screws. This just saves time so you don't have to worry about changing bits. The 2x4s I was using were left over from a previous project and they weren't perfectly straight. One way to get past this issue is to use a bar clamp to line up the pieces just how you want them before drilling them into place. Now that I had the frame assembled, I could begin attaching the pegboard. I used washers with screws to make sure that the screws didn't rip all the way through the board. After I had one side of the pegboard screwed into the frame, I realized that since some of the 2x4s were warped, the board didn't line up perfectly. In order to make sure everything was aligned, I took a scrap piece of wood and clamped it until the corners were flush. Then I drove in the rest of the screws, and at this point, the pegboard itself was complete. So since I'm in my basement, the walls are made of concrete and I don't want to screw into the walls, so I got these eye screws. And I'm going to use these with chains to hang up the pegboard on the wall, that way I can move it around if I ever need to in the future. I measured where exactly I wanted to place the eye screws on the pegboard and on the beam of the ceiling. Then I used the chain to hang the pegboard up above my workbench. If you're using this method, make sure you get a chain strong enough to hold the weight of the board and the tools that will be hanging on it later. You can buy assorted peg hooks at any hardware store, and they're super easy to attach and customize however you want. I didn't have a specific method of where I wanted to hang my tools, other than trying to distribute the weight evenly across the pegboard. The hooks are removable, so I can easily rearrange the layout whenever I want. This is a super easy yet effective project that I spent under $20 on, and I was really happy with how it turned out. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more projects like this, or if you have any questions about the pegboard in particular, let me know in the comments below.